Hello, my darlings. This is Mrs. Welch from the Chester Andover Elementary School Library, and I have a fun book to share with you today. It's called Nadia, the Girl Who Couldn't Sit Still. Now, this is a book about a girl who was very smart in different ways, and she didn't really like to sit still and read and write, but she had a lot of other talents. Nadia, the Girl Who Couldn't Sit Still by Karlin Gray, illustrated by Christine Devonier. In the village of Onesti, Romania, a country rich with forests and mountains, there lived a little girl who couldn't sit still. She loved soccer, swimming, playing with dolls, and climbing trees. But she just didn't climb the trees. She swung from branch to branch until her family would call her home. Nadia! Nadia Comaneci was a feisty and fearless little girl. Once she got into trouble for trying on a pair of roller skates in a store, and she skated right out the building. Another time, she couldn't wait for her father to tighten the screws on her new bicycle, and it fell apart as she rode away. And one year, she climbed up the Christmas tree to eat the candy dangling from the top, and ended up underneath the fallen tree. Nadia, why on earth do you spend all your time climbing trees? Her grandmother asked her. Nadia answered simply, because they're there to be climbed. To find a place for all that energy, Nadia's mother signed her up for gymnastics lesson. When Nadia stepped into the gym, she felt a little overwhelmed by the big space and strange equipment. But she also saw plenty of room to jump and swing and run. At school recess, Nadia and her friend loved to cartwheel their way around the playground. A gymnastics coach named Bella Caroli spotted them. Bella and his wife Marta asked the girl to join their new gymnastics school. Nadia's parents agreed. 6-year-old Nadia liked her math and science classes at the new school, but she loved gymnastics best. Bella and Marta taught her how to do a straight cartwheel on a line painted on the floor, then on a low balance beam surrounded by cushions, and finally on the high balance beam. Nadia practiced all her skills until she mastered them and moved on to learning more difficult moves. Soon Nadia was flying from bar to bar, from floor to vault, and high above the balance beam. When she was 9, Nadia traveled with Bella's team to her first junior national championship competition. After so much hard work and practice, Nadia had perfected the routines, but when she did a leap on the beam, she fell. Angry and embarrassed, she tried again and fell again. With her ears burning, she tried a third time and fell for a third time. Nadia finished in 13th place. Disappointed but determined, Nadia continued to practice for many hours each day. And at the next National Junior Championships, she won first place. She never gave up. Nadia kept improving and competing, practicing and perfecting until she reached the highest competition, the Olympic Games. In Montreal, Canada, the best gymnasts from all over the world, including the Russian gold medalists from the previous year, Olga Korbut and Lyudmila Trcheva, were ready to compete. Judges scored each athlete's performance on a rating system, from 1, which was a terrible score, to 10, which was a perfect score. You all know what to do, Bella instructed his team. Remember what we practiced and make yourselves and your country proud. Then over the loudspeaker, now entering the arena for the 1976 Olympic Games, the Romanian team. On the first day of the competition, Nadia's team performed on the beam, the floor, and the vault. Nadia earned a 9.9, a 9.75, and a 9.7 on these events. Next, the Romanians took their turn at the bars, where Olga scored a 9.9. Nadia mounted the bars. Now 14 years old, she'd come a long way from the forests in Romania, but she swung around as easily as she had jumped from branch to branch as a little girl. The audience gasps as she twirled and whipped and flipped. Nadia finished her routine by soaring through the air and landing perfectly on the mat below. The crowd exploded with applause. After a long wait, the scoreboard flashed a number. 1. A terrible score. Nadia looked at Bella. Bella looked at the judges. The crowd watched in confused silence. "What's Nadia's score?" Bella asked. One of the officials held up 10 fingers as a voice announced over the loudspeaker, "Ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time in Olympic history, Nadia Comaneci has received the score of a perfect 10. The scoreboard had been programmed to only go as high as 9.9 because no male or female gymnast had ever received a 10. Nadia turned to Bella. "Was that really a 10? "You bet it is, Nadia." Bella smiled, and the audience went wild, clapping and cheering. But the competition was not over, so Nadia moved on to her next event and her next perfect 10. Again and again, Nadia's scores were perfect. When the competition ended, she had earned 7 perfect 10s. At the medal ceremonies, Olga and Ludmila congratulated the new Olympic champion. Nadia won 5 Olympic medals, 3 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze, and became the youngest Olympic gold medalist in the gymnastics event. Reporters surrounded Nadia with questions. One asked her how it felt having the world's attention. "I feel just the same as before," she answered. One asked her if she'd been confident she would win. "Yes, I was sure," Nadia said. And one reporter asked her when she would retire. "Retire?" she replied. "I'm 14 years old." When Nadia returned home, thousands of cheering Romanians, including the president of Romania, greeted her and her teammates. Now famous around the world, Nadia went back to Onesti, back to her family, her school, and her gym, where she could fly from bar to bar, from floor to vault, and high above the beam. Even with all of her achievements and medals, she continued to practice and aim for perfection. After all, Nadia was a girl who wouldn't sit still. And this mentions her, the rest of her life. It's called a timeline. And she was in the Olympics again in 1980. And she actually lives in the United States now. I highly recommend, if you have access to YouTube, taking a look at her Olympic routines. They're pretty amazing. This has been Mrs. Welch for the Chester Andover Elementary School, and we'll see you soon.